welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Hex. Oh, a new year, new games, and a new den of gaming, Barjo.
Yes, let me give you the tour. So this is all my stuff here and here, and there's the arcade machine. Your stuff's over there in the corner, and that's the set.
All right, well, so it's really not that different then, is it?
No.
Oh, well, that's good, because that means we can get straight into the games. And this year we're starting with a descent into madness and horror with Dead Space 3.
Brace for impact. I can't.
And we see if they mostly come out at night with Aliens Colonial Marines.
Plus, is a rebooted Dante enough to reinvigorate the Devil May Cry franchise?
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Answer at the end of the show.
Right, news time, decision time.
Look. Ah, it's me! Oh my god, where am I going? So much space! Whoa! Whoa!
Do a flip.
Good game.
Following years of financial uncertainty, games publisher THQ filed for bankruptcy and was dissolved. Most of the development studios owned by the publisher have been auctioned off. Sega purchased Company of Heroes developer Relic Studios along with the Warhammer 40k license. Ubisoft snapped up both THQ Montreal and the rights to publish South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Fight for the stick!
Koch Media and Deep Silver bought Saints Row developer Volition Incorporated and the Metro franchise, while Crytek acquired the Homefront franchise. Darksiders developer Vigil did not find a buyer and was subsequently closed down, while several other franchises such as Homeworld remain on the market. Filmmaker Duncan Jones, son of music legend David Bowie, will take the director's chair on Legendary Pictures' Warcraft film, based on the hugely popular Blizzard series. Jones, who describes himself as a real gamer, is confident he can do the world of Warcraft justice on the silver screen. Jones's past films include Moon and Source Code. Epic Mickey developer Junction Point Studios has been shut down. The studio was co-created by games industry veteran Warren Spector, known for his work on Deus Ex, System Shock, Wing Commander and Thief. No reason was given for the closure, however low sales of the studio's Epic Mickey games may have been the cause. Award-winning composer Norman Corbeil, best known by gamers for his haunting score to Quantic Dream's Heavy Rain, has lost his battle with pancreatic cancer at the age of 56. Corbeil had begun work on Beyond Two Souls, and it's not yet known how much of his score had been completed.
Good game.
When the people you're supposed to trust most turn out to be demon scum, your eyes really do open up to evil everywhere. I took a stand, fought back, killed, and after all that anger, violence, and death, you have to dig deep. Look into your own heart to see if you are still sane, or if you can still call yourself human.
Devil May Cry is a reboot of the popular demon-slaying series. You play as Dante, a cocky, smug, arrogant demon slayer who is able to travel between two worlds, the one we know and Limbo.
All right, see you on the other side.
The Demon King Mundus is enslaving the world with control of debt, and also a popular slurm like cola that's full of demon poison.
Virility's secret ingredient is what makes Virility the #1 soft drink in the world.
Mundus wants you dead, and after his minions find you, you're set on a path to take him down and, in turn, save the human race. The two realities to this world make for some interesting design, don't they?
Yeah, I like Limbo. If you can handle the hardcore heavy-duty thrash metal music that plays when you're in it, it's an interesting mechanic. I like that what happens in Limbo doesn't necessarily stay in Limbo. It affects the real world, and you can see the devs have had fun playing with this. Whether that's being simply guided through Limbo by your friend Kat,
You will have to cross a sky bridge to get into the East Wing.
or using your grapples to change the real and save your friends. There's a lot of platforming in this DMC, but it's mostly trial and error, so I didn't have that great a time with it, but I thought there were still some inspired moments as they manipulate the world around you.
There are around 20 or so missions, but I felt like each one of them had a point or a purpose, either to the story or to mixing up the gameplay with new abilities or weapons. You know, you just never felt like you were simply moving through zones. The Limbo world also makes each mission feel different because the devs manipulate and play with so much of the environment. And I'm glad they do, because the combat does get a little bit relentless. When you strip away the world and platforming, it becomes a series of rooms with increasingly difficult enemy combinations. I mean, I did get a bit tired of that.
Yeah, I've always seen DMC as a bit of a gauntlet that you run through, and you have to make your own fun with the fights to get anything out of it. So I think it's not going to be for everyone, that kind of combat.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go as far as to say it's just not worth playing this on normal. I mean, the satisfaction comes from tough fights that stress out your health. You know, for once, I actually like that your health doesn't regenerate. You need to buy refills or get the odd drop, and that adds a layer of preservation to the strategy.
The game encourages you to mix up different attacks and chain them together to get the best score for each fight. There's demon and angel weapons, and you'll switch between these depending on the situation and the enemy. This makes fights about prioritizing as you launch enemies into the air, pull away shields, and duel with the odd swordmaster to test your evading skills. So there is a lot to do in a big fight.
Get down here!
Well, I would, Dante, but how can I put this? You're beneath me.
I especially love the fight on the way to the Demon King's lady friend. It made good use of the demon angel themes. Plus, she's super gross.
Yeah, at first I just thought it was a bad texture, but then you actually realise she's a horrible skin bag with a demon inside. Ugh. And you can get a nice rhythm going once you master the controls, but I don't know, they're not very intuitive, are they?
I did not like the controls. I did not like them at all. I don't mind combinations and remembering those. I don't like the ones that have the pauses in them, and there's a few of those here. But that aside, there's just so many modifiers to switch out between all the different weapons. Left and right trigger to different weapons for each one, and then also the D-pad to switch certain weapons. It's all just too much and too convoluted. And just trying to pick the right grapple, whether to launch yourself or pull something towards you. It's a finagle and a half.
An angle and a half. Yeah, I mean, if you stop playing this for a day or so, you can actually forget what everything does. And while I think some people may revel in that complexity, I personally found myself craving a more God of War style fight system. That slow motion hit ending each fight is always satisfying, and it's a nice bookend to the fight as well. Even though Dante's smug creep smile pops up almost every time.
I think you're all mixed up.
Yeah, he's a smug machine. In fact, for the first few hours of this game, I absolutely hated him.
From your prom date, you ugly sack of shit.
They've tried to westernize this Devil May Cry game for the reboot, and I think that is the right way to go, but not everything gels, including his hair. With fans, anyway. There's even online petitions saying they hate his hair, and I don't really mind that so much.
Not on the list.
It's more that I just think he's a bit of a jerk. He comes across as a jerky kind of character.
I am now.
I don't know, I think that could be on purpose though, because about halfway through the game, when things start to get more serious, you really see his character shift as the stakes get higher and more responsibility is placed on him. And plus, you know, I think his attitude in general starts to mature once the bond between him and Kat grows.
What are you doing here?
Escaping my nightmares.
You came to Limbo to escape your nightmares.
Yes.
Yeah, I did like him more towards the end, and I do see that shift, but I still think, you know, this is younger Dante, and he has lessons to learn. He should have been less good at what he does at the start.
I like it rough.
I mean, this is a reboot. You're starting again. You know, let's build something. I feel like there's assumed knowledge that we don't know about, and the snippets that you get about his family just wasn't enough.
Is this really going to work? He doesn't seem to care.
He's raw. Just like you were when I first found you.
Maybe he's just a cocky young upstart.
Maybe that's why I don't like him.
There are still some fine moments to play out, and I'm glad it's a simple story told well, which I much prefer to an overcomplicated demon mythology epic.
No, we can't help her. Let's go.
We played this on all platforms, and it looks great on PC and pretty good on 360 too. The PS3 version, though, we did notice some frame rate and shimmering issues. Enough for us to notice. Not a big deal, but I still saw them. All in all, this is a pretty solid reboot. It didn't really grab me the way I thought it would, Hex, but I had an okay time. I had a 7 out of 10 time with this game.
Well, it was 8 out of 10 from me.
Good game.
demon hunter clad in red leather with bleached bangs and a serious attitude problem. Dante, this is your extra life. Named after the famous Italian poet, you were born to parents Sparta and Eva. Both you and your twin brother Virgil shared somewhat of an unconventional childhood. But after the unfortunate demise of your parents, you spent the next years of your life between various demon-run institutions, which of course led to your extreme aversion for your devilish kin. However, you did eventually find a niche for this distinct distaste, and you wound up making a living as a freelance vigilante, starting your very own detective agency, Devil May Cry. And it was from here you began dealing out your very own brand of justice with a couple of close friends. That's right, it's Rebellion, your sword, and your favorite dual pistols, Ebony and Ivory.
Time to go to work, guys.
With a flair for theatrics, you soon made a name for yourself as a stylish, out-of-this-world assassin, adorned in your trademarked red attire and a haircut that would make even an emo blush. You've journeyed through both Limbo and Earth, brandishing an elaborate collection of sharp weapons, and of course, an even sharper tongue.
You can stay and die, or you can walk your ugly ass back through that gate. It's your call, pal.
Yes, it's this flippant attitude and ability to insult even the most daunting of foes that has led to some of your most iconic and demonic clashes. Still, you fought on, no matter what stood in your way, or in this case, your chest. Yet, through your adventures, you persevered, and both you and your hair have grown, resulting in a far more mature and sensible demon hunter. Still, your latest adventure may be your most extreme makeover yet.
Not in a million years.
Dante, over the years you've faced numerous obstacles, defeated demons both real and internal, and even diffused some serious sibling rivalry. And you did it all in style, with a devil may care attitude.
Good game.
Thanks, Goose. Well, made as a kind of video game sequel to the second Aliens film, Aliens Colonial Marines puts you in the combat boots of Corporal Chris Winter, who's part of a search and rescue team to try and find Hicks, Ripley, and the rest of the gang from the USS Sulaco. Gee, I wonder what kind of surprises will be in store for Corporal Chris Winter, Barjo.
Probs aliens?
Yeah.
Game over, man! Game over!
Pull yourself together, Barjo! Yep, from the moment you arrive, you're hit with a wave of alien nostalgia as you're faced with some really great links and references to the films that fans will undoubtedly go nuts over.
And when you get down to the planet, that whole landing zone and entry hex, the holes in the roof of the operation room and the floor where those aliens came out, the bed that Ripley and Newt slept under.
Let's all sleep in that creepy science experiment lab.
The sentry guns.
Looks like somebody put up a hell of a last stand here.
Guns are dry.
Even that yellow light when you talked about the monsters. It's all there. They do a pretty good job of capturing the feel of the Aliens movies, and fans will pick up on every single detail here.
Unfortunately, it's not with a whole lot of polish, though, is it? I mean, visually it's pretty poor compared to what we expect from a new release these days. Textures are rough, animations are dodgy with jumps and skating, and characters barely look like they're interacting with each other. It's pretty disappointing.
They're coming out of the wall!
That one is literally coming out of the wall. Yes, I was hoping this would be a gritty, modern, fan-fest Aliens game that I could grab and love, but no. Even getting through the first area is a bit of a chore, even for a fan. Mostly, you'll spend a lot of your time wandering around the same dull corridors in the dark, fighting off Xenos as they leap at you from the shadows.
Yes, and while I enjoyed the creepiness of the dark corridors of that ruined ship, it can be kind of hard to find your way around in the dark, even with the help of your scanner. I often found myself going around in circles with my little flashlight, just searching for an exit into the next area for ages, because a lot of the areas look the same. That said, the darkness does serve as a terrifying cover for those ceiling-crawling Xenos.
Well, they mostly come out at night.
Not again.
Mostly. Contact.
Yeah, I mean, the best parts of this game are when you're involved in those terrifying shootouts with aliens, trying to fight them off when they make a lunge for you, or just spotting them in the dark.
Or welding a door shut behind you to slow down a Xeno that's hunting you so you can make a break for it.
I just wish there'd been more moments like that in the game. There's a great variety of guns in the game, which are all recognizable from the films, and some really nice options for upgrades and modifications, which I really liked as well. Plus, some weapon combinations allow for some really cool finishes when you need to do a close quarters kill.
Something I want to do again.
All the guns sound just like they do from the film as well. In fact, all the audio in this game is great.
I just feel like the major letdowns here are just how dated everything looks and generally uninteresting level design. I mean, so many of these areas seem identical. Even the moments when you head outside, you're basically just running from point to point and then back inside the same dark corridors.
I think if you're not an Aliens fan, somehow, then you will find this very average sandwich in Ho-Hum. But if you are a die-hard fan, this is pretty much a virtual set tour of the second film. My best advice is to watch the film first and then go into this game and just roleplay it a little bit. Pretend you're part of the team and then you'll have a good time.
Yeah, I get that. I get that for fans just being there is exciting, but does that have to come at the expense of interesting gameplay? The action is mostly enjoyable, but there are some frustrating sections where the game just becomes a really average corridor shooter, and you'll be involved in pretty standard gunfights with goons and a few pointless objectives like disarming things or flicking switches. I mean, can't you have those amazing, iconic set pieces, but do something a little bit more inventive with them?
Yeah, I agree with you. Although in co-op, it is significantly better, especially when you've got the scanners out and you're just creeping around and communicating with each other.
4 meters.
Although, if you have your scanner out, your other teammates can't hear it pinging, and I think that's an oversight. It removes a whole bunch of cool strategy that could have been in that.
Yeah, it is the kind of game that really intensifies when you're navigating those infested halls with a buddy. And there's some really great, aliens versus humans moments that are just more fun in tandem.
Oh, your health is not good.
I know, I'm in a bad way, bud. That said, there's some annoying teleporting that happens if you wander too far from one another, so it has got issues.
It's also got a bit of Halo-itis, where even on the hardest difficulty with other players, it's still pretty easy in co-op. I do like that you can play with friendly fire on though, and that adds a lot of strategy and once again, more communication between you and your team, so you feel like an awesome team working through, trying not to hit each other.
You track him. Oh, here they are. I got you, bro. Thanks for shooting the alien, which bleeds acid on me.
But anyway, let's talk about the multiplayer.
Yes, we could only test this out with a handful of people, but there's quite a few modes of humans versus aliens. And there are some different class options to choose from with the aliens, like splitters and lurkers.
Oh, no.
Or weapon loadouts when playing as Marines.
Behind you!
I struggled with the aliens' controls though, Hex. Just trying to climb on the walls, it was all a little bit awkward. Maybe you just need to get used to it.
That leaping and wall climbing is cool though. Always being able to instantly detect the Marines through walls is another great advantage. And I can imagine if we had more people, that kind of swarm approach playing on Team Xeno would really give you an advantage if you work together.
Oh, I'm not well.
I know that as a Marine, I got wiped a few times by some lurker Xenos that were timing their attacks just perfectly.
There is one interesting mode where you have to make your way out of a zone and to a lift going through certain checkpoints, and playing as the Marine in this mode is heart-pumping stuff.
I can hear them. Oh, that was you.
I heard something.
Oh no!
Aliens are quick, stealthy, and certain classes can make flying leaps across huge gaps, so you really do feel surrounded.
Help!
What did you think of it overall, Baju?
I know it's not a great game, but I found myself forgiving all of its flaws, just being able to walk through those iconic aliens locations with friends. So I'm going to give it 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I agree it does offer some great fan service by way of its likeness to the films, but the gameplay just wasn't up to scratch, so I'm giving it 6.
The first commercial product I had anything to do with was Duke Nukem. What a start, huh? I was a designer on the team, and On the original game, I had very little influence, mostly play balance with competitive. I used to play the game competitively with George like every day. I think Duke Nukem 3D launched in the beginning of '96. And then we immediately followed it up with the Atomic Edition with an add-on pack that was like that 4th episode. I did 4 of the maps in that 4th episode. I did a 4th or a 3rd of the levels myself, so it was a lot of fun.
Good game.
Now from Xenomorphs to Necromorphs in Dead Space 3, and this time you can cower in terror with a friend.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Dead Space 3 continues the story of Isaac Clarke and the mysterious markers. These were meant to deliver unlimited power to mankind, but had the nasty side effect of zombifying everything.
At the start of the game, after the obligatory staring at ex-girlfriend's photo a few times moment, Isaac throws one of many tantrums to come.
Got a job for you.
No. No!
And then is launched into an explosive third-person style shooter action intro. Hex, after this first half hour or so, I was really worried about this game. It was like a bad action film.
Yeah, that didn't feel like Dead Space at all, that section, did it? But yeah, I was relieved when things got back to that slow-paced, creepy, derelict spaceship action that we all know and love very much.
Yes, and from that point on, whenever an action situation happens, it actually helps the pacing of the game and often leads to truly exciting moments. There's also much more variety in locations now, and that's exactly what this series needed.
There's just more to do now as well. You'll spend some time jet booting in 3D space and taking little craft rides, which we know are just loading windows, but they're still a joy, and it just gives you a chance to breathe. And it's just a good-looking game at every turn, isn't it?
Yeah, there are some stunning visuals, and I could jet boot in space forever, Hex.
Okay. There we go. Let's not do that again.
There are more engineering puzzles now too. Apparently, Isaac is the only one who can solve this complex space engineering degree-worthy puzzle, and sometimes the gaminess of them doesn't quite gel with the awesome, rickety, hardcore sci-fi feel the rest of the game has.
I see it!
Yeah, I wish the puzzles were more like Fallout hacking as opposed to a Wii minigame. But they don't repeat themselves that much. In fact, there's not much repetition in this game at all.
Yeah, well, you do get your fair share of necromorph waves busting out of vents, though.
If you've got vents in a spaceship, that's gotta happen. That's a standard rule.
Contamination detected.
And I think this Dead Space makes it much harder to predict when a fight is going to occur. Sometimes when you see a bit of loot on the ground now, you can actually pick it up safely. Sometimes.
Audio adds much to the atmosphere as well. I just love the dramatic difference from the very quiet plodding around space to mechanical doors or the very loud sounds of necromorph screams constantly assaulting your senses. And when necromorphs get up close, it's always a controller-intensive experience. Get off, get off, get off, get off, get off!
One thing I've only just realized is how important it is to have the camera always anchored to Isaac, no matter what he's doing, whether he's climbing up a ladder or being squeezed out of a giant necromorph sphincter. You're always there with him going through that moment, and that just makes everything feel much more connected.
That's so important too when you're on the ships, which are really just like a bunch of rooms with loading airlocks. But that anchoring makes you feel like you're moving through a complete connected set piece, and those exterior space sections just reinforce that.
And you especially feel it when the character's being pulled somewhere, such as when you go and land on the planet. It's so exciting. The ice planet is a cruel, harsh place, and quickly you'll crave the warm belly of a Tauntaun. You're often put outside your comfort zone and forced to micromanage your tactics, such as in this fight with a giant mechanical drill.
Back up! Get out of the way!
Even though there's not many new enemy types, they all seem a bit faster, and I found myself using stasis a lot more, and that really adds to the pressure in a fight when they're slowly moving towards you and you're trying to reload. Ugh.
The biggest change to the combat is the huge variety of weapon customization, with each gun having 2 firing modes and consequently 2 combat strategies. And it's not just reload speed and damage augments. Now you can have one weapon with an electrified ricochet bowler on the top and a rocket launcher on the bottom. And your other weapon might be an assault rifle with an electric or acid charge augment and something else underneath. You also get a little scavenger bot to help you look for mats. Off you go, little guy. See you back at the bench.
It's a rich and developed system. We did see some microtransaction stuff in there, which we couldn't test out, but we played through fine without needing to purchase anything. I did think the assault rifles were a little overpowered now, and you don't get that surgical strategy as much with them like you do with the cutting tools.
You do still need to dismember with the assault rifle on those tougher enemies, though.
Yeah, I think developer Visceral Games have made some bold choices here. You know, they're trying to keep a good amount of gamey stuff in there, but also keeping it really hardcore sci-fi, and they walk that line quite well. Plus, the use of light to guide you through the levels is down to a fine art now.
I also really like that they've somehow made Isaac more responsive without taking away that slow, sluggish feel that a metal suit would give you.
And the best part is co-op didn't wreck this. It just adds more story ideas and new types of strategy to the game. When you play in single player, Carver will only appear now and then in the cutscenes. He's not some stupid AI buddy talking to you constantly and fumbling around not helping in a fight. It's a classic Dead Space romp if you play on your own. However, I would suggest putting up the difficulty because it all does feel a bit easier now.
We didn't have access to much of the co-op for review, but what we did get to play was quite interesting because you get to see how they've woven the co-op buddy into all those QuickTime moments. I want all co-op games to do this from now on, Barjo. I mean, how many great co-op games are just hampered by AI partners that can't shoot anything?
Yeah. In fact, my only real criticism of this game, besides the horrible first half hour, is that there's not much character development you actually care about. Isaac just spends half of his dialogue talking about his ex-girlfriend and beating chess with the jock that's dating her.
I never gave up on you.
Oh no, you get up on the world. This mission needs him.
We need him or you need him?
Hey, you got something to say to me, Captain?
Stop, just stop.
At least they've tried to put some sort of emotive storyline in there, and it does add a lot of conflict to the conversations. And, you know, maybe Isaac just has a lot of feelings.
I knew you were too stubborn to die.
There's no time for feelings in space. The human race is ending. There are zombie necromorph things everywhere. Focus, Isaac. You've got things to do. To me, it just felt a little bit out of place.
I could use a change of scenery.
You know, it was interesting playing both this and Aliens Colonial Marines together because they both have such similar elements and themes, co-op, horror, space, yet it's easy to see how Dead Space just does this so much better. I had a great time. I'm giving it 9.5.
Yeah, it's my favorite Dead Space yet. I'm giving it 9.5 too.
Good game.
So, did you guess the game for this week? It was Dig Dug from 1982. Your task was to dig your way through the ground to eliminate 2 different kinds of monsters, either by overinflating them or dropping rocks on them. It was huge in Japan, and it's our game of the week because we are celebrating our new digs. Get it?
I do get it. It was very clever. Yep. Next week, we have a look at the latest fruit slicing simulator with Metal Gear Rising: Revenge of them.
For the younger gamers in your life, Spawn Point is back this weekend on ABC3, and we kick off the year with a review of Ni no Kuni.
And if that's not enough gaming goodness for you, we have a concise edition of Good Game called Pocket Edition, launching this Saturday on ABC2 at 8:20 p.m.
Yes, think of it as DLC from your ABC. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out. Hey Hex, you know what we can do now in this new studio?
What? We could do a review standing
We
up.
could do the whole show standing up.
Yeah.
We could, hi and welcome to Good Game. Stand up. No.
It's better sitting, isn't it?
Yeah.